Hello everybody, we are back again doing our first series review after multiple series failed to end. Finally, we did see one series end in the first round, that being of course Vegas Golden Knights against the Winnipeg Jets. Now before we start, I wanted to say please make sure to subscribe to my channel if you're new to me, new to hockey, whatever the case may be. Now let's get into it. So going into this series, Vegas was seen as the favorite to win it, but there were some concerns, especially when you consider what was going on for their goaltending. And for them, really at the end of this first game, that's where the concerns started to be a little bit problematic. So in the first period of game one, we saw nobody score a goal. So it was nothing, and then Winnipeg finally were able to break the stalemate here. They had goals by Kyle Connor and Pierre-Luc Dubois, so they took a 2-0 lead. No big deal, right? Because William Karlsson scored a goal to make it 2-1, so just a 1-goal deficit. But the problems kind of persisted as later on we ended up seeing Blake Wheeler score a goal just 4 minutes later, and then ultimately the Jets would go on to win this one 5-1. 5-1. This was one of those games that shocked me. Vegas managed just 17 shots on goal in the game and just 2 in the final period. In the third, they were just basically a non-factor as Winnipeg steals a game in the first game of this series to take a 1-0 lead. And then in game 2, we saw Adam Lowry pick up here where the Jets left off with a power play goal to score first for his team, but the Knights were able to respond with 2 goals of their own, including Jack Eichel's first ever career playoff goal. If you would have told me back when he got drafted it would have been against the Jets, I would have probably thought he got traded because that would have meant that the Sabres would have had to go on to the Stanley Cup final. But yes, Jack Eichel finally gets his first goal, but defenseman Kevin Stanley, former Columbus Blue Jacket by the way, was able to tie it up at 2 apiece for all teams, or for both teams at the end of the second. It managed to stay close in this game. This game was a lot closer than the final score indicates, but Chandler Stevenson had a goal to give the Golden Knights a 1-0 lead, or a 1-goal lead I should say, before franchise legend Mark Stone, who is coming back from a spinal injury, ended up scoring 2 goals for his side to win the game 5-2 as the series was tied up 1-1. Big win here for Vegas. In game 3, we saw the series head over to Manitoba, and of course you get the whiteout going, and they were a crowd that was feeling fired up as Vegas, probably was not happy about the fact that the game was stolen from them, but the Jets fans were hoping maybe they could have a 2-0 series lead, but the Golden Knights ended up taking a 2-0 lead in this game before Kyle Connor made it a 1-goal game halfway through the period. All hope looked lost as the Sin City team scored 2 more in the second, making it 4-1 in favor of the road side. But just like some other playoff games we've seen, leads mean nothing here in this game as Winnipeg rallied late. In fact, Adam Lowry scored the game-tying goal with a little over 21 seconds left in the affair to send it into extra hockey, free hockey, which we all love to see, where in double overtime it was forward Amadio who scored his first playoff goal ever in this long-lasting affair, and Vegas ended up winning this one 5-4 in double OT to take a 2-1 series lead. They get that game back that they lost, and this was also the game, unfortunately, for Winnipeg, where they lost Josh Morrissey, a defenseman who was having an outstanding breakout season, and he was going to be out for the remainder of this series. Game 4 was really a must-win game here if you're a Winnipeg fan, considering the fact that the Golden Knights had won the previous 2 games after you had stolen a game in Game 1. And for them, as Jets fans, you were probably thinking this could be worse as it was tied up 1-1 at the end of the first period. The Golden Knights ended up taking control of the second period though. They ended up with 2 goals of their own, and it was eventually 3-1 Vegas with just 20 minutes left to play, so you are feeling anxious here. Pierre-Luc Dubois, the Manitoba man, was able to give his team some life early in the third, but ultimately Brett Howden, who scored his second of the game, this one being an empty netter, ended up being the factor in this, or one of the factors, as Winnipeg lost this one here again, heartbreaking fashion, because the score was pretty close and Vegas took a 3-1 series lead, so you're feeling really tough about where this thing's headed as it goes back to Sin City. Game 5 is a win or go home situation for the Jets, and ultimately this was a disaster. You hate to seem over dramatic or anything like that, but it was pretty much all Vegas here. I'm not going to really go too much into this game. As you look at it though, the Golden Knights were able to get ahead early in this one and just stay ahead. Chandler Stevenson opened it up for his team just about a minute into the game, and then before we saw 30 minutes of action in this one, Vegas was up 4-0. The Jets did get on the board though, I will give them credit there. They ultimately though ended up losing this game 4-1, and then Vegas won the series 4-1. This was, to wrap up both sides and where one season ends for one team and for another. For Winnipeg, this was tough. They have really not been able to find their groove in 2023. I mean, in January at one point, I do believe they were top in the Western Conference. February came around and things started to fall apart. They were missing guys in this series going into it. They did lose Josh Morrissey, so I definitely understand that, and you feel bad for them. At the same time though, Rick Bowness basically summed it up to say, we've been in a slump, we haven't been able to break out of it, and going forward we're going to have to figure some things out. And of course, for Winnipeg fans, that is true, considering that this club really has not been able to have success in quite some time in the postseason. As for the Vegas Golden Knights, this was big, especially after all the adversity that they've had to deal with throughout the year. They just came in here, lost game one in a really bad fashion. They actually were just totally dominated at 5-on-5, and it was problematic, but they ended up winning this series. They won their final 4 games in this affair in the first round to go to the second round for the 4th time in franchise history. Just 6 seasons that they've been around. They made the playoffs 5 times in those 6 seasons, and while this club may not be on paper one of the other teams that you think of as one of the better Vegas sides, especially with what they've had to deal with, this was a gutsy performance by them. They ended up winning game 5, even though Winnipeg scored 2 power play goals on 2 opportunities. Vegas didn't get any. Didn't matter though, as the Golden Knights are headed on to take on either the Edmonton Oilers or Los Angeles Kings. Really curious to see who that will be. But for myself, I'm going to say this is it for the video. What are your thoughts on the series? What do you think went wrong for Winnipeg? What do you think went right for Vegas? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And you go off hockey, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.